Welcome back to WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton. It's a Friday morning here on WSBA, and time to check in with Clark Hodges, financial strategist with Hodges Capital. Good morning, Clark. How you doing? Hey, Clark.
I'm good, Gary. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Good to have you in this morning. Hey, I always like to look back on that was the week that was with you, and talk a little bit about what's going on out there. I saw the number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits fell more than expected last week. Now, it suggests that the labor market continued to strengthen despite tepid economic growth. And the initial claims for state unemployment benefits declined 9,000 to a seasonally adjusted 267,000 for the week. I don't want to get into the weeds too much with the numbers, but the jobless claims have now been below 300,000, which is the threshold associated with a healthy labor market, for 57 weeks. It's the longest stretch since 1973. However, when you look at this labor market right now, it kind of is a little bit at odds with the slowing economic growth. I mean, right now we're looking at some data that says consumer spending, business investment, international trade have slowed below a 1% annualized rate in the first quarter after expanding at an anemic 1.4% pace in the fourth quarter. So, we're looking at all this and we're saying, what is the picture that we're seeing out there right now in this country? What are your thoughts?
Well, I hate to be cynical, but there's one group that I don't trust to put out authentic, true numbers, and that's the U.S. government.
I was going to say, would it be the government, perchance?
Yeah, so the fact is, like you said, the consumer's not participating. And that tells me, the skeptic in me says those numbers are cooked. Those are not real numbers. They're not true. The jobs, if they are getting jobs, are low-paying jobs that, quite frankly, are not making people have any sort of confidence to go out and spend money. So that's my initial thought. It's not a feel-good economy, that's for sure.
Well, and the spending power that people have, plus the fact that people, when they do eventually have to come off, welfare or some other kind of subsistence program, the jobs that they're getting are maybe well under the jobs that they lost before, too. I think that's something else. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but go ahead. Go ahead.
But that's a great point. That's so true. I mean, just getting a job for job's sake, just to have a job, and the U.S. government counts that as, growth, I guess technically is growth, but the quality of the job, the amount of pay that the job is getting this person, and the ability to move up in that job are very important factors in a real job, and a lot of people are taking jobs that they just have to take. They're overqualified for.
And the other thing, too, we hear all this talk about the minimum wage, and so the minimum wage has taken the stage as, well, this is where you kind of stick for the rest of your life. I mean, isn't that a sad statement about what was originally supposed to be a job you started out in 18 to 25 years of age as a starter job to see, put your foot in the market and get out there and start to figure out what you want to do in life. Now there are people out there saying, well, we got a whole group of people in this country that are going to live at that for a long period of time. I mean, that's a sad litany about the United States.
It really is. I saw an article the other day that was written, and I don't remember who it was, but they compared the Democratic Party to a pimp who's managing people, keeping them down, oppressing them down, and keeping their wages down and controlling their lives. And people that grow up and want minimum wage and think that's the way to live, they've been misled. They've been misled horribly by somebody in their life, and it should not be fought for. Minimum wage should not be fought for. Minimum wage should be something that you start at, but you want to achieve better. You want to do more. And the mentality of this is, what my life is, make minimum wage and go on down the road is just sad. You're right.
We hear people argue about opportunity in America, and I would say opportunity in America is there for everybody, but opportunity is not equal for everybody. Starting points are not equal. Ending points are not equal, but opportunity is out there for everybody if they want to go try to grab it. Now, the way you get it, the way I get it might be two different ways, and we might have some roadblocks that come up, but we have this mentality today that somehow we all are entitled to the same opportunity. And if we don't get it, then someone else ought to have to pay for it and get us up there closer to it. And I reject that. I mean, that's what the minimum wage really is all about. And I had a lovely lady here yesterday who was a Bernie Sanders delegate, is running to be a Bernie Sanders delegate, and she said, they're trying to raise the minimum wage to close up the gap. I said, you're not going to close up the gap doing that. All you're doing is you're solidifying ignorance, you're solidifying dependence, and what you're really doing is getting someone to be satisfied with the minimum in the country when our whole country was set up to preach for maximums, that you can go out there and be the maximum person if you want to be.
Right. The person who now makes $15 an hour in California, when they go to the store and buy something, it's going to cost them more because of that law, okay? And then some of their friends and maybe even them are going to be laid off because of that law. So it's not helping them.
Well, you know what's really interesting? I saw in California they're putting in that $15 minimum wage. Our governor screams about it all the time. He doesn't understand. It's basically a shill to his party. But basically what happens is they said, well, in California, we're going to phase it in over 5 years. We're going to, so by 2021, we will have a $15 an hour minimum wage. Well, by 2021, $15 an hour, they're going to be screwed about getting $25 an hour, right? Yeah. I mean, 15 will be old hat. I mean, who's going to want a 15 in 5 years?
Really. Yeah. Inflation will come in there at some point, so your $15 an hour in 2016 won't buy nearly as much as it would in 2021.
You mentioned the word inflation, and I think that's a big story. Because, people say, well, inflation is coming. I say, inflation's here. Anybody go to the grocery store lately? I mean, you go to the grocery store. I go in every week, and I try to, I try to kind of keep my spending down. I watch carefully what I'm doing. I'm a guy, though, so I'm an idiot when some things. But but I'm pretty careful about what I shop for as far as my lifestyle and my wife's lifestyle. And but I walk out of there, I say, really? Did I spend that much money for this? It's amazing. So when a lot of people out there who have to actually go out and buy their own groceries each day, unlike the Hillary Clintons and the Donald Trumps and people like that. I mean, we're experiencing all that stuff up front right now, and that's part of the whole thing too. And saying, what about this growth? What about this so-called growth of this country? The growth doesn't seem to be paying for the same stuff that we were paying for before.
Right. The story that needs to be told and taught to people is it's not how much you make, but it's how much you spend and how much you save.
Yep.
And we've all heard stories of school teachers who are millionaires because they saved. So it's just about living below your means, and you'll be okay. And so that's really the mentality that people need to understand is this $15 an hour shouldn't be spent all. It should be, part of it should be saved. But that's not the mentality that people are brought up with these days. And you're right. The entitlement generation, I see these reports of college students who are just so out there. It's just crazy to me that this is happening in our country with this Bernie Sanders stuff, that they're so out of touch with reality that it's just mind-boggling.
Well, I used this example yesterday with this lady that was here, and I said, hey, here's your first lesson in capitalism for your kids. Your kid comes home, and they're preaching, hey, I got the burn. I'm feeling the burn. I love Bernie Sanders. Okay, that's fine. Or anybody who espouses the socialist stuff. And you come home and you say, all right, what'd you get? Well, I got straight A's, Dad. I got straight A's. No, you didn't. No, Johnny down the street here went to school. He has got a C. And so I think we ought to equal out. I'm going to give you B's, and we'll give Johnny a B, and we'll equal it all up. So you can share your grades with somebody else, despite the fact that you work very hard to get those and Johnny didn't do a damn thing, right? And so you go, well, that's not fair. There's your first lesson in capitalism compared to socialism. Thank you very much.
That's it. I mean, people need to be brought up with the mentality that, the only helping hand you need is the one at the end of your sleeve. Now, there are definitely times in people's lives that they need a helping hand. And
there is no question.
They should take that as a temporary assistance, not as a lifetime lifestyle.
And be thankful for that and not expect that that's going to be, oh, yeah, I got this guy. I can sucker them into carrying me along, forever.
Right. And I hear the argument, oh, well, they can afford it. That is so unbelievable to me.
That's playing somebody. That's just going out and playing somebody. They owe this to me. They can afford it. What a bunch of crap, Clark. I mean, where do we ever get to that? Anyway,
we got that from the top down.
yeah.
When your government is changing the rules of corporate America mergers and acquisitions and breaking up done deals and basically doing it to break up a deal because of tax things, when they're abiding the tax laws of this country, they're not breaking any laws, it's coming from the top down. That's the mentality that Barack Obama has brought to our country. We're more divisive today than we ever have been, and it's all, I think, because of that the last 8 years.
Hey, could you stick with me for a couple extra minutes?
Sure.
I want to come back and ask you, based on that, answer this question when we come back. People say, well, the rich have to pay their fair share. Well, boy, when I hear that word fair, I go ballistic anymore. What is fair share? I want to ask you that question when we come back, okay? What is fair share of taxes? I'd like to know what that is.
News Radio 910 WSBA.
Welcome back to WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton. We're with Clark Hodges, financial strategist with Hodges Capital in Dallas, Texas. Clark, I hear people say all the time, that the wealthy ought to pay their fair share. They ought to pay their fair share. I said the wealthy are paying about 41% of the taxes in this country right now. I mean, they're out there paying a lot. Now, are there people that, because of loopholes and so forth, are getting away paying underneath that? Yeah, there are. And are there people taking advantage of the system? No question about it. But I don't think you can blanket that on everybody. So I guess the question I would like to ask you is, what is fair share? I'm always interested in this fair share thing. Is fair share if you don't pay anything in?
Well, by definition, fair shares, it goes down to individual opinion. I mean, the bottom line in my world is you've got to pay taxes. That's part of life. Death and taxes, right?
Right.
But when the tax system is so over the top complicated, and there are ways to take advantage of tax loopholes and not pay as much, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think, me personally, I'm going to spend my money better than the government's going to spend my money.
Right.
And I am taking part of my money in helping people and doing things like that. So it is an act of kindness to give to people who are in need, and I'm doing that better than the government's.
Well, and I'm just all I'm saying is like where people would cheat. You're doing it. The government gives you a playbook. It says, Clark, here's the playbook. If you are in part of this, if you come across in part of this, then you could use this play to save yourself some money and spend more of your money the way you want to, rather than have us spend it. Right.
Right, and cheaters should be prosecuted. I mean, Al Sharpton should be in jail.
Yep.
And he gets away with it because of who he is. But you and I are not going to be that fortunate. And I'm not advocating taking advantage and cheating the system at all. I'm advocating taking advantage of legal ways to not pay the government as much money as you otherwise would.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that
nothing wrong.
Isn't the government us? Aren't we supposed to be keeping more of our money than less? Don't we make better decisions with our money than the government, as you mentioned a moment ago?
That's the bottom line for me. We make better decisions with our money.
Right.
And I go back to a statement I made before is, when you go to communities where companies are profitable and the economies are good, the parks there are in better shape, the churches and the charities there are in better shape, because that's what profits do for a community. And so that's the natural way money should be spent. You go to an area of the country that's got a good tax base, but the companies aren't doing well, the people aren't doing well, it's not going to be any better. The government's not making the parks any better and the churches and charities any better by taking in more money.
Well, and the government
doesn't know how to spend our money.
And the government picks winners and losers. I mean, the government does do that. So when people are able to spend their own money on the things on which they are targeted, the things they want to do, you're going to find a more authentic economy as well. Whereas when the government takes your money, they muddy the waters every single time they do it.
No doubt. Totally agree with that.
Clark, great stuff this morning, man. Thanks so much. Always appreciate talking to you. And I hope you have a great weekend. We'll look forward to next Friday, same time, same station. How's that sound?
All right, Gary. Take care.
Take care, buddy. Thanks so much.